Yeah, so I'll just get straight into it. We're here having a chat with Zuba. It is an absolute pleasure for you to come on, mate. Really, really appreciate it. I actually can't believe it, from Joe Rogan to Love 4. It's incredible. So, yeah, thank you for doing it.
That's okay. You're very welcome.
First and foremost, for anyone who's not watched the Joe Rogan interview or any of your other interviews, you just start off by introducing yourself and especially tell us about your childhood.
Yeah, sure.
You had an extremely interesting upbringing, really, didn't you?
Yeah, no problem. So I'm Zuby. I'm an independent rapper based in the south coast of England. I was born in the UK. I grew up in Saudi Arabia, and my family background is originally from Nigeria. I'm also the host of my own podcast, which is called Real Talk with Zuby. I've released 5 albums and 3 EPs, so 8 releases in total over the years. Sold over 25,000 albums totally independently in the UK without a label. I'm also the author of the fitness book, Strong Advice, Zuby's Guide to Fitness for Everybody, which came out last year and has been doing very well. I've appeared on a whole bunch of stuff. People know me for different reasons. I've been on the Joe Rogan Experience, as you already mentioned. Also been on some major podcasts like the Ben Shapiro Show, the Rubin Report, the Glenn Beck podcast, Candace Owens Show. I've been on Sky News, Fox News, BBC, whole bunch of stuff. So I do a lot of different things. Some people call me a bit of a Renaissance man.
Superb. Quite the entrepreneur as well, really, mate, aren't you, with the Zuby Music and your book coming out? We'll speak about your book a little later, but how does one end up living in Saudi Arabia? I'm extremely interested about that.
Yeah, sure. So we moved to Saudi Arabia when I was 1, actually. So my family was primarily based in Nigeria, and my elder brothers and sisters were actually going to school there. And so I don't remember moving because all of my memories begin in Saudi Arabia. But we moved out there when I was 1. My dad is a doctor, so he got a job offer to go and work for a company out in Saudi Arabia. So initially he went over there by himself. Later on, the rest of the family joined. And yeah, that is where I lived for 19 years in total. So I went to school there up until 5th grade, so up until I was around 11 years old. And then I actually went to boarding school in the UK, in Surrey to begin with, and then in Bristol. Did really well in school, got into Oxford University, studied computer science there. And then I graduated, worked in the corporate world for a couple of years. And then in November 2011, I took the plunge and jumped into doing my music full time. I started making music when I was in uni. Released my first album when I was in university as well. And then, jumped into it full time. So I've been doing it full time now for, this November, it'll be 9 years, which is pretty crazy.
Oh, nice.
Sorry, Zub, did you say you went to Bristol there?
Yeah, I went to a school in Bristol, yeah.
Brilliant. I'm actually from Bristol myself.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it's a dope city.
Yeah, and I'm from Surrey.
And Surrey, yeah, which part?
Kingston, born and bred.
Okay,
Living
cool.
on the south coast myself now, though.
Okay, nice. Yeah. I'm very well traveled in the UK, so I've probably been to every city that everybody is from.
Good stuff, man.
So, like I say, that's quite an interesting upbringing, to say the least, in it, really, and quite impressive, really, if I do say so myself. You mentioned your music, obviously. What actually made you make the plunge to just think, do you know what, I'm doing it?
It's a good question, man. I mean, honestly, I already knew that I wanted to be a professional musician by the time I was at least a couple of years out of university. So by the time I jumped into doing it full time, I already had 4 releases out. So I think by that time I had 1 EP and 3 albums. So it wasn't like I was starting from zero. I already had a good amount of work out there. I'd already been building my fan base. I'd already performed around the UK and a few different countries. So I wasn't sort of jumping into it from ground zero. The core reason is that I knew in the work that I was doing, working in the corporate world, working in an office job, working for somebody else, I knew that I would never be able to really fulfill my potential in any way, shape, or form. My goal is to have a positive impact on millions of people around the world through my words and my actions. And I was just hyper aware, even, from my early 20s, that was not going to be possible in that kind of environment. And I knew I needed to get out of that environment and maximize my own talents and abilities even if it meant taking a big financial hit, even if it meant meaning that, stuff may not really happen for several years. I figured as long as I could keep myself afloat, which I did through my album sales, then I knew that I would be okay. And it seems like a lot of the seeds that have been being planted over the past 13, 14 years are now starting to bear fruit a lot more. A whole bunch of new opportunities are coming. Tons of people discovered me over the past 12 months. I mean, the past 12 months, I've gained more fans and followers than I did in the previous 10 years. So, stuff has just been growing and accelerating. Lots of new opportunities are coming both within and outside of music. The platform is growing. So things are positive. But yeah, in terms of your initial question, it was really that desire to make an impact on the world and to just go my own way, maximize my own talents, and not feel like I was sitting on my own potential.
Yeah, well, you're definitely making an impact, mate. Let me tell you that for free. So congratulations for that.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
I've seen your music video coming at you.
Oh yeah.
I was impressed with that, mate. It's very creative. I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
I enjoyed the song, not only the video.
Oh, thanks a lot, man. Yeah, that's one of my older ones, but it's definitely a Team Zuby favorite. It's one of my favorite songs. It never leaves my set list. I perform it pretty much every gig I do. And yeah, the video was a little bit iconic as well. It was a one-take video, which I just shot on the South Bank of London, just in one shot. And every time I watch it, I notice something different because you're looking at all the
it's a quality video.
So seeing what's going on. So I would love to do another video. I think I've done 4 one-take videos now, but I'd love to do another one sort of in that sort of realm, in a different place, different location.
Bristol.
That same kind of
Bristol.
Bristol, yeah.
We'll see. It's very creative and unique. It was it impressed me. Like I say, I enjoyed it. And the obviously cryptocurrently. How can I not mention that with the love for crypto?
Yeah, so, thank you.
That's another great song. So with your music to your fitness book, because another thing from your other interviews I've seen, you've had quite a sporting life from rugby and multiple sports.
Yeah, that's right.
So was that always the plan to do something on that level, even back when you was doing the university and everything else? Or is it something that came along recently that you just thought, you know what, I believe I can, like you say, you want to give back. Was that always the plan to give back health and fitness wise?
It was not always the plan, no. I've been going to the gym for longer than I've been rapping, though. I started working out when I was 15, primarily to get better, bigger, and stronger for rugby. But, I realized, I've been an expert in terms of training and nutrition and stuff like that for a good amount of time. I've been through the ups and downs so much myself. I've gained over 15 years of experience in it, a lot of trial and error. So one of my friends last year, Jose, shout out to him, he actually kind of gave me the kick in the butt to make and write a book. He was like, man, like, so much about this stuff. You've got this following. Why don't you put something together that can help people out in this regard? And I was like, you know what, that's a good idea. I'm always giving people advice anyway. I've always got friends hitting me up saying, okay, I want to lose some weight. How can I do it? I want to get a good gym program. What should I do? So I figured, you know what, let me just take all that information that's in my brain right now, put it down on paper. Well, it started as an ebook, put it down and help people. And yeah, it's sold about 1,500 copies now, totally independently. That's without it even being on Amazon. So thank you. So it's helping a lot of people. I've had such great feedback, really positive reviews and everything. So yeah, you are correct that was one thing that, I don't want to leave anything on the table. That's why I do so many things, because I am a rapper primarily, and that's what people certainly initially knew me for. However, it's like, beyond rap, I've got other things that I can offer the world. I can do public speaking, I can write books, I can make videos, whatever it is. I don't even know what the future is going to bring. I can do podcasts, whatever comes in the future. It's like, anything that fits into my goal of having a positive impact on over 10 million people. If I can do it, then I will do it, because there's a huge potential audience out there, and you're not going to be able to reach all of them in the same way. There are people who have discovered me through a podcast appearance or through an interview, who I'm sure if I'd just done my music and tried to push them towards that, then they wouldn't necessarily have discovered who I am. So it's like, you know what, I can't force the outcome, but let me put all of these different types of content out there. Let me take all of these different opportunities, and whoever is interested in it, they can sort of pick and choose whatever they want. If they like everything, brilliant. You know, they can take everything. If they're just interested in the music, that's fine. If they're just interested in the podcasts and the interviews, that's fine. If they're just interested in the self-improvement stuff and the fitness stuff, that is also fine. So I'm not stressing that aspect anymore like I used to. I used to want to keep everything just on the music, but there's a lot more that I can offer the world, so why not do it?
Have you got any other projects actually bubbling in the background at the moment?
Yeah, sure. I'm working on a Twitter course, actually, Twitter and social media course, to help people to grow on there and to monetize their audiences, because that's something I've been doing for a very long time. I've been on Twitter since 2009, which is ridiculous. So I'm working on a course to help people improve on that. I've got a couple of events booked both in the UK and in the USA this year, so I'll definitely be going out to the States several times this year, as well as in fact, I've got an event in Bristol on the 16th of April. I remember someone saying they're in Bristol. Yeah, I'm actually been invited to speak at the Libertarian Party, or like some event they're doing there, so that's cool. And then I'm also going to write another book, but that'll be more of a long-term project, because that's not going to be a short book like my fitness book. That's going to be something that's longer. I'd like to combine all of the things we're talking about. I strangely want to sort of combine them into a book that's going to touch on aspects of self-improvement and philosophy and politics. And I'm going to try to bring all of these disparate worlds together in some strange way, I guess, like I do on my social media, and try to make some sort of book around that can provide some kind of value to people. So those are a couple things in the pipeline. I'm also going to be releasing some new music this year as well. It's been, like I've got a whole bunch of ideas. So once I've got the right beats, then some new fire is going to come.
Awesome.
Superb.
Have to pop along when you're in Bristol.
Yeah, man. It'd be great to see you.
Awesome.
What gave you the idea to do the deadlift tweet? I've been wanting to. I wanted to ask that question since it started, but I thought we'd ease in a little bit.
Thank you. It was necessary, wasn't it?
It was, mate. It was epic.
It's about time somebody did it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've been privately having this conversation with people for several years and sort of ringing the alarm bell on that particular issue for some time. And people always thought that I was being alarmist or being silly, or even that I was sort of making stuff up. So, I kept seeing these stories coming out in the papers, in the US and Canada and the UK, seeing all of these stories coming out. And then just out of curiosity, I thought, I wonder what the British women's powerlifting records are. I mean, I'm a strong guy. And I looked them up and I saw, okay, the deadlift, yeah, I can beat that. Bench press, yeah, I can beat that. Squat was a little bit higher than my maximum, because I'm not the best squatter in the world. So I just already had that. The video that went viral was already online. That wasn't, a lot of people think I recorded that video for the tweet. That was just a video that already existed, just from one of my general training sessions. And so I just dug it up on my phone and I tweeted it, and I added the caption. I keep hearing about how biological men have no strength advantage over biological women in 2019. So watch me destroy the British women's deadlift record without trying. Yes, I identified as a woman. Don't be a bigot. So,
Next made me go.
You should have put a hashtag no rats. That's the first thing I thought. It's actually a decent deadlift, mate. Well done. But congratulations on that. It's got 2.3 million views, mate. So,
dude,
making an impact.
That's just on Twitter. I don't know how many it got, including YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and TV.
But the good thing is you're starting a conversation. You actually have got people talking about it now in a really positive way.
Yeah.
It's not a negative thing anymore.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's a lot of power in humor.
Yes.
And that's something I always try to maintain. If you follow me, especially on Twitter, then people know that, stuff can get, I kick the hornet's nest, it seems, at least twice a day. So
well, like Booz just said, you're a conversation starter, and the thing I like about you is you're not scared to be a controversial conversation starter, or the conversations that so many people are scared to have. From race to gender to wars and politics. some people are legitimately scared to have these conversations
absolutely.
and attack opinions. It's actually become.
That's part of why I do it, because I know that me doing it emboldens and encourages other people, and it also lets people know, like, okay, I'm not just going crazy, because I think it's easy to look at the Western world sometimes and think, okay, like everyone is just totally lost the plot, and that's not the case. That's not the case. But because of what you've just said, people will talk about these things maybe in private or with a close friend, but they won't want to put them online. And the people expressing the opinions online, especially the people with big platforms, tend to have the crazy opinions. So I like to be a bit of a counterbalance to that, just to sort of bring things back to a norm so that they don't get super duper polarized or crazy. And, with everything I do as well, I always try to maintain my sense of humor. And that's part of why the deadlift tweet went viral, right? I'm not the first person to talk about the issue or highlight it, but it's always done in an angry way, or people are aggressive, or people are inflammatory or whatever. I was just like, oh, okay, these are the rules. Cool. Okay. Let me take this record. And the video itself sort of makes the point. So it's a bit of a checkmate move, because even the people who wanted to be angry at it didn't really have a leg to stand on, because if they came after me, I was like, well, I identified as a woman, so what's your problem? You've been right. Someone comes after me and I'm like, well, what's a woman? And they're like, anyone who identifies. Yeah, and they say anyone who identifies as one. I said, okay then, so what's your problem? And they say, oh, but you don't really mean it. I'm like, how dare you? Right? It's like, it's like you have to pick one. You've got to be consistent.
And don't hurt my feelings.
You've got to be consistent. And there's this idea of gender fluidity as well. So I don't even need to be consistent. I could be a man for this purposes of this podcast, and then I could go to the gym tomorrow morning and identify as a woman again. So it's quite fun, actually. I enjoy doing it. It sort of indemnifies you from any criticism. So I can see why people like it.
The world's gone mad. The gender fluidity has gone mad. I don't understand it. I'm too old.
Labour today, you're born with no sex. So
I saw that. Yeah,
I believe we're waiting to know what age you actually know now.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where that comes in, but
it's the people who call other people science deniers, which is
it's
brilliant.
Absolutely ridiculous. Now, just to clear the air with the listeners, my view is adults do what you want as long as you don't hurt others. I don't like the instilling it on kids and pushing it on kids. We was talking just before you came in about where's the tomboys gone. Where's the tomboy girls gone? Because nearly every girl, they wore tracksuits when I was a kid. All the girls, there was all tomboys.
Yeah, there are certain lines. You know what I mean? I think most people have. It was funny. Actually, earlier today there was a trans person who I was having a little conversation with on Twitter, who was, being very, very reasonable. And with this whole topic, with a lot of topics, activists are not representative of the actual populations that they often claim to be advocates for. So for someone who's not familiar with like this whole thing, it wouldn't shock me if they just thought like, okay, like these trans people are just crazy, because that's what they're seeing, right? Like all the activists, even the people who aren't trans but are claiming to speak on behalf of them, they're pushing all of this crazy stuff, like saying that there's no biological difference, and it's fine to have someone who's 6'4" and 250 pounds playing rugby or Aussie rules football or whatever sport against women, because they're a woman too. And it's like, they're pushing it to ridiculous levels, or when they're trying to create speech legislations and, get people fired for their jobs for misgendering, all of this stuff. It's very authoritarian. And that's the thing that people draw a line at. I don't believe that there are that many people, not in the West anyway, not in the UK and the US and in Canada, who sort of have like some legitimate hatred of any demographic of people in this day and age. Sure, were these things problems rolling back decades and centuries? Yeah, sure. But we've kind of reached a great place where actually, most people don't.
Inclusive, they don't care.
Yeah, no, most people don't care. People see each other as individuals, and everyone's fine. You go to any city, people are just going about their business, doing their stuff, interacting with each other, and it's fine. People generally don't care. So I think that in this whole movement and in a few others, it seems like they're doing actually a disservice to the people that they're claiming to represent. The amount of times I've had people accuse me of transphobia or hating LGBT people or hating this person or hating, I'm like, I hate nobody.
Yeah.
I literally hate nobody. I've got tons of trans people who actually follow me. And I've had people come to my gigs and stuff, and I've spoken to people, and everyone's just an individual. You know, that's really how I view the world. But like we were saying, when you start trying to force things on people, that's always the issue. It doesn't matter if it's something social or cultural or political or religious or whatever, you know, as long as people can have their different beliefs, and that's totally fine. But if, you know, I'm a Christian and I believe that, you know, Jesus is the Son of God, but I'm not going to try to create some government mandate that punishes everybody who doesn't share that opinion, right? That's clearly crossing a line. It's like, no, you know, not everyone has to. I can have my opinion. We can have these conversations, you know. And I think most people implicitly understand this. You know what I mean? Like, most people get this. Most people are mature enough to be like, yeah, of course, that's fine. People have different beliefs. You respect people's different beliefs or non-beliefs or whatever it is. But in any of these things, if you start trying to force other people, or you start trying to change the laws or change the words, or, you know, get people kicked off of platforms or get people fired because they have an opinion or a belief that you don't personally share, then that's really crossing a line, because that's when you start infringing on other people's rights.
Yeah, spot
on. I find it a little bit ridiculous that people like to label themselves. So I'll meet somebody and they'll say, "Hi, my name's Anna. I'm gay." And I look at them and I say, "I'm Lorna. I'm heterosexual. What's my sexuality got to do with you?"
Are people doing that now?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
In the real world?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's like, well, you know, I'm not really interested in your sexuality, but thanks very much for letting me know.
That is odd. I meet a lot of people, and I don't think I've actually experienced it. I think I've seen it.
It's got to be my face. It's got to be my face.
They feel comfortable. They feel comfortable telling you.
Yeah, it's an odd it's an odd first thing to say.
Yeah, I think if you try to push things on anyone is wrong. When you try to push something on kids, people who really don't understand it, you're talking people who you don't let do a hell of a lot of things until they're considered adults, from drinking to smoking to having sex to God knows what. But then all of a sudden they can talk about sex. And this is the thing, like you mentioned, the gender, it doesn't really exist. It's kind of an ancient thing for most people. Even beyond the 90s, most women were expected to have jobs. Not many people expect woman in the kitchen and at home all day now, which is your gender roles, don't really exist in most people's minds anyway. They're flipping it to sex. Like, you're born without a sex. Like, that is backwards thinking, isn't it, surely?
It's taking it to another level.
It's not true. It's demonstrably false.
Yeah.
Right. So this isn't even opinion territory now. This is trying to pass off things that are incorrect as fact. I mean, there are lots of belief systems and ideas where it really comes down to ideas and opinions, right? It can't be proven or disproven either way. But if you're going to say that people aren't born with a specific it's like, that's just factually wrong. This isn't even limited to human beings. Every animal species is born with a given sex. Like, we know this. We've known this since before science even was a thing, right? That's kind of how we got here. So when someone says something like that, I mean, it's as phony as me saying that I'm wearing a yellow t-shirt when everyone can see that my t-shirt is black. So
I think it's gone one step further, though. It's almost like bordering on the edges of child abuse, because you're desexifying kids and not giving them any parameters. So, you know, if a boy plays with a doll, obviously he wants to be a girl, so start treating him like a girl. But they need that input, male and female, to the masculine and the feminine, in order to make their own mind up. And that takes years and years and years, but without labeling them at a young age. I find
it's an interesting perspective, in it. On the Joe Rogan podcast, Zuba, you mentioned how you feel a lot of social media and the internet's become just one big experiment.
It is.
That's just another side of it. It's just throw it out there, see how they react. We'll be able to shut it up in the end if we need to.
It is. I mean, when was the first smartphone invented? 2006. That's not that long ago. So we don't really know what the long-term effects of all this stuff are. I mean, based on the first 14 years, it doesn't seem that positive. I mean, you know, on the serious note, I mean, if you look at the rise in mental health issues, you look at the rise in depression, loneliness, suicide, self-harm, they all start going up in 2006. Like you can literally see invention of smartphone and everything just starts, all of these things just start going up. And it's not shocking or surprising. I mean, if you look at the way people use these platforms, the way people behave, the way they get addicted to them, honestly, it's not good for most people. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. I love social media. I mean, I wouldn't be able to do and reach as many people as I do without it. But you know, it's still a very new invention and technology, and we just don't really know. You know, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years down the line, we don't know exactly how this is going to affect society. There's certain things you can predict, but with any new technology or anything new that drastically changes a society, you're never going to know until, you know, you've got the benefit of hindsight. You're never going to know exactly how that impacts things in the long term. You know, there are things that happened in the 70s or the 80s, which you're now seeing, okay, this is what the impact of that change was, or that idea, or that policy, or something. So yeah, I just think people need to be cognizant of it. I think people are becoming more cognizant of it. I think people are a little more wary and just aware of some of the, you know, potential pros and cons and issues with social media now. You're seeing people talk about that a lot more, even in the media, just the way people are using it. You're seeing even little things like Instagram deciding to make the likes private rather than public because they were seeing how that was impacting certain people and things like, you know, it's a very minor step. But, you know, on the phones now, they now have Zen mode. So if you've been using your phone for over, I think, 2 hours nonstop, then certain phones on Android, they have what they call Zen mode, which which comes on and, you know, it shuts off your phone essentially for 20 minutes just so you have that period.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's, you know,
phone's like, you gotta go and chill, bro. You've been playing with me too long, baby.
Yeah. But yeah, you know, I think as long as people are very cognizant of it, and as long as people also don't lose the ability to interact in real life, you know, I think there's nothing wrong with online communication and social networking and all that, as long as it doesn't come at the expense of real life human social interaction, right? If you've got someone who only knows how to communicate through a phone or through a website, but, you know, they can't make eye contact in real life, or they don't know how to have a conversation, all that kind of stuff, which is, you know, becoming a little bit more prevalent, especially amongst people who are kind of maybe in the 15 to 25 age range, just because of the time it sort of hit them, then that's a potential issue, because, you know, that's the generation that's, you know, they almost don't remember the world without some of these things. I mean, I'm old enough now. I'm like, I was kind of at the cusp of it. So it's like, cool. I can remember the world pretty much, you know, I can remember the world certainly before social media. I can also remember the world almost before internet, essentially. Well, yeah, I can remember the world before
pre-infrared.
Yeah,
remotes on wires and that.
Yeah, you know, I remember going through dial-up and then, you know, finally getting broadband, and then the invention of social media and then smartphones and all that. So I
remember before that.
Yeah. Yeah, but you know, it's but younger people don't, right? If someone is 14 years old, then iPhones and iPads and all that stuff has always existed since, you know,
it is crazy.
They were born with Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and all that. So again, people just need to make sure that doesn't substitute real life interaction, because that is important, and that's really what makes us human.
Yeah, it makes you wonder where it's going to go. If they're not careful, they will end up with a full-on Ready Player One type world where it's all AR, VR, and everyone's just sat in. It'll either be that, or it'll be the other one. What was the Surrogates, the Bruce Willis one, where they sent an android out instead of going out themselves.
I think I know what you're talking about, but I don't think I've seen the film.
Yeah, they run the risk of an extremely connected, but socially disconnected future. That's extremely interesting. Especially with the likes of 5G and Internet of Value, possible microchipping, like you say, new phones. If phones have got this good so fast, where they're going to be by 2030. It's going to affect the world, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to bear in mind. I mean, I'm 33 years old, and which is not old by any measure. And when I was a kid, I mean, I remember when you couldn't render a circle on a computer monitor, right? Like, they couldn't render a circle, right? They tried to draw a circle and it would just be a square, right? If you're playing a football game, then the circle was just a square. At the best, you might get a hexagon, right? If you had really, they couldn't draw a circle. So just in my lifetime, you've gone from stick figures on a screen, to, I mean, play now, a high-end PC game or a high-end Xbox One or PS4 game, or do VR or something. And that's just in my lifetime. So the technology we have right now, people who are 3, 4, 5 years old right now, when they're my age, they're going to look back on what we have right now in the way I look back on the Apple IIe and the Atari 2600. And
Commodore 64.
Took the words right out.
Yeah. That's what we have right now.
ZX Spectrum.
Yeah, ZX Spectrum. What we have right now, that is what, that's what it's going to look like to them, and that's just crazy. All right.
For anyone listening,
can't even fathom,
or watching in the future, Commodore 64, the games was on cassette. Cassette tape. Think about that. Not cartridge.
They don't know
not
what cassettes
CD.
are nowadays.
Go Google CD. See what that means.
Even more recently, even more recently, going back, a decade plus ago, I remember when they started taking the floppy disk drives out of laptops and computers, and I remember being really angry. And how much did a disk hold? 1.4 meg.
Yeah, tiny.
I think it was tiny.
That's not even an MP3. That's not even a photo. I remember being really upset when they started taking them out. And I was like, how are you going to store files? I was like, 1.44 meg. Like, how do you even, you can't even store anything on that now. That's like a couple
I had all my Pokemon games on floppy disk back in the day, in the 90s. Pokemon Gold on floppy disk.
Oh, nice. So yeah, it's just, technology is a crazy thing. It's a crazy thing. But I think we need to make sure that we use the tool rather than the tools using us. And that's how I feel about social media.
Yeah, because a lot of people don't see it happening. With cryptocurrency and distributed ledger technology, how did you get onto that? How did you notice that happening? Was it just Bitcoin and Ethereum, or was it the technology, someone with the tech as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, so I first heard about Bitcoin. I mean, I keep in mind I'm a computer science graduate. So I heard about Bitcoin actually, man, I heard about it probably 2012, 2013-ish, but I didn't pay any remote attention to it. I didn't bother looking into it until 2017. It was just something that I thought was like another form of PayPal, or maybe like some kind of, I'd heard the name, but I just didn't look into it whatsoever. And then in 2017, I don't even know what really prompted it. I saw something about it, and I went and did my proper research, and I actually bought into the concept very quickly. I was sold on it quite quickly. So initially I was interested in Bitcoin, and then from there started learning and researching about other coins, altcoins, Ethereum, and a bunch of other projects. Of course, 2017, there was that massive peak and the mania and all the greed and everything like that. And it went nuts. And, I went through a long period of pain in that period. I'm finally back in the black as of a couple of weeks ago, which is beautiful.
Nice.
I didn't actually sell anything in that entire period, which is, somewhat impressive. But so I was drawn in initially through the technology and the possibilities of it. And then, of course, because of the timing of when I got in, because it was going through that mad period, the greed set in, and I was like, oh, cool, this is a quick way to get rich, right? And then, stuff kind of went to crap for the next 2 years, which is fine. But during that period, I did a lot of learning and research to really, really understand the whole situation better, both from an technology perspective and also from an investment perspective as well.
So do you have a diverse portfolio, or do you concentrate on just the Bitcoin and Ethereum?
Oh, well, after the beatings of the last 2 years, I'm primarily consolidated into Bitcoin. Not entirely, not 100%, but primarily. outside of my, other investments. But in the world of crypto, primarily Bitcoin. But yeah, there's a few other projects that I'm also interested in, including Ethereum. There's probably like 10 to 15 that I'm interested in.
Do you like XRP?
I've never bought any XRP. I don't have any XRP.
Nah, not me.
Yeah, so because it's interesting. You mentioned before about the content creation and you want to help people monetize and stuff like that. So XRP and the XRP ledger, one way that people are using that to help monetize, it's through what they're going to call micro payments, or per second payments through platforms like Coil and Cinnamon. Have you seen or heard of any of them on Twitter?
I haven't actually. No, I don't know much about XRP.
Right. So the idea around that with Coil and Cinnamon is to produce platforms for and by content creators, so they get 100% of the revenue. So like you say, you can monetize on YouTube, but you have to drop the ads and you get some ad money, and it's very lucrative if you've got the following. But YouTube are obviously taking their cut. You can do it on Patreon, you can do it anywhere, and they'll all take the cut. Coil and Cinnamon, they're actually giving content creators 100% of the revenue, and it comes dripped from the XRP ledger.
That's interesting.
From a Coil website. It's very interesting. We'll send you an email containing some more details about that, because it's something, especially people who want to help others monetize. Obviously, no one's going on it tomorrow and earning millions. It's a very, very early platform. It's an early technology, but it's going to go there. It's also going to change subscriptions to the per second payment. So how it works is you sign up to a site called Coil, you become a contributor, and then anyone's site that you watch who's got Coil in the header, you drip XRP into them on a per second basis, and they take every penny of the revenue into a cryptocurrency wallet. It's extremely interesting. Like I say, I'll send you some details. We will send you some details about that, definitely.
Yeah, I will check it out. There's a whole bunch of...
There's a guy called Weetzewind who's built something called the XRP Tipbot.
Oh, I'm familiar with that.
Right. Well,
actually, no, I said I have no XRP. I've been tipped XRP before.
Have you set up the Tipbot though to receive it?
I believe so, yeah.
Cool. In that case, I will send you some XRP.
Oh, thank you.
And that is where your Coil contributions would land. So we'll show you as well how to get signed up for Coil. You can put your YouTube channel onto Coil, and then any content, any Coil contributor who's watching your content will then contribute XRP to your Tipbot. It's really
it's a little bit like basic attention token in that regard.
Yes.
Somewhat.
Exactly. Okay. Which you can also flip. You can basic attention token is actually quite impressive with what they've got on offer with Uphold.
Mm-hmm.
So you can have your basic attention token drop in, and if you don't want basic attention token, you want pounds or another crypto, it can flip it itself through Uphold for you, and it's just left there again in the.
Yeah. I've been using Brave for a couple of years, so I like the way it integrates with BAT.
Yeah. The only real difference is the World Bank like XRP. They just won't say anything.
Well, yeah, these micro payments, and they're calling it the Internet of Value behind. Well, not really behind the scenes, but not in mainstream media. It's kind of being a little bit hidden. They're all that Bitcoin thing, so it's interesting to see where it goes, really.
Yeah, man.
Don't suppose you're in LA in May, are you?
Oh yeah,
I am in LA in May. Yeah, end of May.
We've got a 2-day conference on the 16th and 17th.
Okay.
Which,
if you were available, we'd love to invite you along to.
Yeah, it'd be great if you could make it.
I doubt I'll be able to make that because of existing plans. But I'll definitely be in LA end of May because I've got a video to film there. I've been invited out there. But yeah, if I can, then I will. But I'm just thinking. No, I think there's an event. There's an event I'll probably have to do. Well, it's actually up to me, but it's a big event on I think the 24th and the 25th of May, and I'd need to do some stuff in the run up to it, and that would be here in the UK.
Not a worries. We've also got we do a 1-day conference in September in Manchester, so I'll send you some details on that if you're around. We'd love to see you.
Yeah, Can you tell us anything about the video you're doing in LA quickly? I believe you have to go soon, don't you?
I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can announce it just yet.
No problem. No problem.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you got anything coming up that you can announce for us?
Anything coming up? Yeah, sure. Well, when is this podcast going to come out?
I'll be dropping it in the next few days.
Feel
free to plug everything. Plug the website, the book,
yeah,
sure.
Advice, okay, cool. So firstly, if you're listening and you want to find me online, then zubymusic.com is my main website. You can find my music and my podcast on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and other channels. Just search for Zuby or Zuby Podcast if you're looking for the podcast. It's called Real Talk with Zuby. All of my social media handles are the same, at Zuby Music. That is ZUBY Music. You can find me on Twitter. Definitely follow me there. I'm also on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And then in terms of events, I am, best to probably go to my website, zubymusic.com, and you can find events up there. I will be updating it. There's new stuff that's coming in, but I'm doing an event in London on the 28th of February. I'm doing this event in Bristol on the 16th of April. I'll be doing some stuff in the US in May and July, definitely, and possibly in June as well. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff coming. I've got a couple of events coming up in London as well, which are going to be announced. So there's a lot happening.
Nice. Watch this space, guys. Zuby making an impact. It's been a pleasure, mate. I've enjoyed having a chat with you. I really have. It's flew by. Sadly, we'll have to do it again in the future.
No doubt.
But yeah, it's
so much for coming in and spending your time with us.
Yeah,
you're very welcome.
All the best going forward with everything that you do. You've got some avid followers now because since you did the deadlift, I'm sharing you with everyone.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Honestly, guys, check his Twitter page out. Definitely, he's got some great conversations on there. You will not be disappointed. Yeah, I think I'll just cut it at that, mate. That was fantastic.
Awesome.
Great little chat there. I really appreciate you coming on. Can't thank you enough.
Man. I appreciate it. No worries,
you'll have to have us on yours over the summer.
Yeah, man. We'll see what we can do.
We'll come on your podcast over the summer.
Sweet.
When you're not busy in LA shooting videos, mate. I hope it all goes well. Really do. Good luck for the future.
Oh, and I would be happy to sit down and have a conversation with you about how things are changing from I'm 50, so how we see the sort of the women's side of thing has changed and how it's sort of turning around, going the other way at the moment. And there's an awful lot of women my age that are quite angry about how it's turning into a shit fest for men. Actually, I've got to say, I watched your interview with Peter Bittle, and I love him. I think he's brilliant. Yeah, he's cool, UKIP, he's gay, and he works in London, so
he's got adults coming at all angles, him, man. The poor lad.
And his wife. So it goes.
Yeah,
but yeah, I really enjoyed some of the stuff that you were talking about with him, and I think there's definitely some really good conversations about some of that stuff.
Yeah, thank you very much. No, I will keep speaking the truth and doing what I do.
Yeah, thank you.
Super, mate. We'll let you get off. We know you've got to go when you're short on time, so
yeah, man.
Appreciate it.
He's literally he's doing
Have a good night. Take care.
See you later.
See you later.